They'll lynch you, but he did, and he laughs at
Good start, wasn't it? Evening, all Russ and the West Ham Network. Hope you're all safe and well from you around here. You know what to do. You know what to do. Give it a like, all that good stuff. So, what are we talking about today, Alfie? Right. Okay. So, now I've had an idea. I've had an epiphany, a way of trying to understand who we should sign as West Ham. What I thought I will do is get a committee of people. 4 people, no reference to any other committee. That's just purely speculative and no shit housing at all. But the idea is we've got 4 people, and we're going to debate about some transfer targets, talk about what we think about each transfer target, and vote and see in a 4-man committee whether we can come to some sort of level of agreement. So we'll give that a go. We've got some great guests. It's going to be a bit of a giggle tonight. Hopefully a bit of a wry smile of our transfer window or lack of. Let's bring in. Let's start with Dan from West Ham Fan TV. He literally just put up a video about transfers. How we doing, Dan? Having fun?
Yeah, mate. Enjoying this wonderful transfer window as usual. It's always a barrel of laughs, isn't it?
Nothing changes.
Going.
Nothing changed, doesn't it? Every year we go, right, okay, here we go. Business done early, sorted. We know we're going to be scrabbling around come the end of August, aren't we?
Yeah. Same old West Ham.
Same old West Ham. I wouldn't say old, but let's go. It was his birthday the other day. Gary Clattenbooth, there he is. How are we doing, Gal?
Yeah, not bad. You're right, Russ. Hi, Dan.
Yeah.
Looking forward to this, kind of. I see we've made a signing already. Did you see the headline on Hammers News? We've signed 7 Portakabins on a 2-year deal.
We haven't signed them. It's a new contract.
Right, it's a renewal.
The renewal. So yeah, there's no shirt, there's no scarf. It's basically means we've got the Portakabins for another. Haven Council have agreed for us to have them for another 2 years. So it's
progress, though, right? It's progress.
It's momentum, as my boss would say. Yeah. It's about momentum, building momentum, signing things. And let's bring in Mike from the Babbling Lions. Mikey boy, how we doing, mate?
How's it going, mate? I'm good. You?
Yeah, very well, very well. Have you run out of anything to talk about on any YouTube channel just yet?
No, we're probably going to talk about the Portakabins because there's putting some solid foundations down for the team for the next year. So I think we'll probably do a feature on that one probably next.
Yeah, good idea. I think old Carlos Borges must be can't wait to get in those Portakabins. I mean, he's been spoiled with all that Man City, training ground, and will he look like he's?
Maybe that's what's holding the deal up. Was waiting to get the Portakabin.
waiting for that last bit. Waiting for that last bit. It's a bit like going to a secondary school. Those Portakabins, isn't it? And so maybe that's what Carlos wants. He just wants that sort of feeling. But we'll see what happens. Anyway, so the idea is we have taken the top rumors, the top players we linked with. I haven't included Carlos because I think that one is sort of, well, according to whichever ITK you read, that's done. That's practically done. Maybe 1 or 2 technical hitches, which mean we'll definitely won't sign him. I thought we'll start with some. And so the general idea is we're going to go through them. We go through each because loads of different names have come up all the time, and there's probably about. Well, I think we'll see. I've got about 10, but we'll probably won't get through all 10. As you know, I keep account of everyone we've been linked with, and currently we're on 123 this year. Actually, it's 124 now. Because we've been linked with the Juventus winger, haven't we? Junior. So I've got to put that on. So 124 so far. I think it was 130 last year. So we're well on track, guys. Well on track for a bumper year this year. Right. Let's start with JWP. Let's start with James Ward-Prowse. Obviously, as you know, with JWP, by all accounts, this one is probably the most likely to be happening, I think, by the sounds of it. Obviously, we know what he brings in terms of, he's 28, he's 5'8", so he's a little bit taller than me. Not surprising. It's probably a little bit taller than Dan as well. I've never seen you in real life, Mike, so I don't know how tall you are. 409 first-team appearances, 55 goals, all played for Southampton. We made a verbal offer. I still want to find out, see if any of you know what a verbal offer means. A verbal offer of £25 million, apparently. Southampton were looking for more, maybe 30, 35. I think it was 40 million potentially as well. We'll go in the houses. Let's start with you, Gal. What do you think about JWP? There's a lot of. Siri was going to.
Listen, I think he's a decent player. He's a good player. He's got a good engine, good fitness. He, good at set pieces, and if we're keeping Moyes for this season, set pieces are going to be a feature, aren't they? The thing is, I'd like to know who else we're going to buy before we buy him. You know what I mean? Because I'd hate to go down this route where we sign one player at 28, then we go and get Maguire, age 30, and then we slowly start recruiting these. I'd like to see a mix of old and young, experienced, Premier League experience and not. He ticks Premier League experience box. As long as we don't pay too much for him, I think he'd be a good buy. And there was rumours about 27 million today, but was that 27 million including plus Downs in part exchange?
Well, apparently he's not. Downs doesn't want to leave, does he? No, he wants to stay and fight for his place, which I don't blame him either. Brentford boy, it's taken him long enough to come and play for his local club. So, I mean, it's a strange one. I don't know what you feel about. I know you Dan made a video literally about an hour ago. It came out about all these Premier League ready players, and we're going to talk about McTominay and stuff later on, and Maguire. But in terms of JWP. Would you be happy if he's our first sort of marquee signing, but our first sort of first team signing, arguably?
Yeah, I mean, obviously being the first signing, it makes it feel like it's supposed to be a marquee signing, but I wouldn't look at him as a marquee signing. But I'd be happy with James Ward-Prowse at 25 million. It doesn't, excite me or blow me away and think, oh wow, we've got James Ward-Prowse, we're going to be brilliant next season. But if he's Souček's replacement, for example, then that's a massive upgrade. He also brings the leadership capabilities to the team. Some fans are suggesting we make him captain straight away. No, I don't think anyone comes in immediately and is captain at a club. I think that's ridiculous. So, but future, or maybe next season, he can take those reins. But he's got that experience. He's got the leadership qualities that we look for. Like Gary said, he's got the set piece ability on him, which, we've got the players in there that can attack him. And we were so lethal on set pieces a couple of seasons ago, and we, fell off a cliff. So, I think, 25 mil, like I said, if we was paying 40, 45, I wouldn't be happy with that. But 25 mil, I think, is a good deal for James Ward-Prowse.
I mean, he's 28. He's still got 2 years left, and he's 2 years left in his contract. I think his contract runs up. Well, it might be 3 years. I think it's 2006. I think he runs out. I think he signed a 5-year deal in 2001. So, Southampton, they probably need to sell probably one of him or Lavia, for example, to balance the books. Apparently, he hasn't got a relegation clause in his contract. I think we were obviously linked with him last year, weren't we? When Southampton was still sort of in the Premier League, and so he didn't want to go to us then, but now he does. But Mike, I mean, obviously Babbly Nines, you do lots of the stats and stuff like that. Apart from the set plays, what else could he bring? Do you know what I mean? Because I think a lot of people call him a one-trick pony.
So the way I look at him, and this is probably not going to please a lot of people, is that he's very much like Robert Snodgrass. He runs around a lot, puts himself about, but arguably that's kind of it. He has some decent passing, but he likes to play sideways. Southampton fans would also say he ain't the player that's maybe been talked about in some sections of our fans. So we're talking about as a really progressive forward player in terms of his passing. He's bang on the average line. If you compare him across the top 5 European leagues for the past 2 seasons, he's bang on the median line. So he is an average player in that respect when it comes to progressive passes. Progressive passes is basically a player that's passing it 25 yards or further to get you closer to goal. Now, we're signing him because he's going to help progress play and he's going to drive us forward and be able to be that linchpin to put in Paqueta. Data doesn't necessarily back that up, because if you're a progressive player, you are always doing this. In the way that he's talked about, you'd think that he's actually in the upper echelons of that within Europe, and he actually isn't for the past 2 seasons if you look at it. And
he's got similar goals and assists though to Bowen, though, isn't he? Like,
so last year he got 10
yeah.
goals, 6 assists. This year I think is a bit less. I'll have to double check, but this year 9 goals, 7 assists this season. 2 of them were penalties this year. So he will bring goals from set pieces. However, you've got to get yourselves into positions where you can earn those. And one of the things that I would always say with a lot of the hype that goes around, we can go back to being a set piece team. How many of us on this panel, and probably how many in this channel, used to turn around and say that Stoke are anti-football? All they do is score or play for set pieces, and it's boring to watch.
I think. Look, nobody wants it. Nobody wants to be a set piece team. I don't. I mean,
Moisey didn't, did he? Moisey changed everything.
Well, I don't know about that. I don't know how you can say Moisey
hated it, didn't
he?
He hated it.
Loves a set piece.
He does now.
We were a shit boring to watch team without the set piece threat. We were basically the same as the season before, but we just took away the set piece goals.
Yeah.
So for me, if we're going to be that team, I want to score the goals. If we're going to be a boring to watch team, be effective in the set piece. And it's funny you said Snodgrass, because I had Snodgrass in my mind, but like a better Snodgrass. But I love Snodgrass.
Yeah,
that's the thing. That's where it is. It's either you love Snodgrass or you looked at him as a flawed player who was a brilliant lad, a brilliant kind of person having the group, and he would be honest and work his arse off. Yeah, but
look, he's an established player. He's an established, he's got, I think, 11 caps for England. I don't know whether they were in, friendly internationals or whatever. Don't know what it was. But, if he's going to be the replacement for Souček, Souček's got this one major flaw, and that is he cannot cope when people get in his face. Right. And I don't know who it was. Brighton, I think, figured it out first of all. And from that point on, every single team got in his face and he makes mistakes. As soon as he's put under pressure, he makes mistakes. He passes, all over the place. And so you end up with Souček just doing exactly what you said, running around, not doing much, right? Just trying to keep out of trouble. And that's why Declan Rice ended up doing his role as well last season. Now, James Ward-Prowse, if he was in that role, can he cope under pressure? Is he okay with people in his face? I can't answer that.
I believe so. I think he can carry the ball and take players on.
So that's the thing about me. How I feel about JWP is what role does he play? Does he play? I mean, I don't remember him being a particularly prolific sort of, he's not a hard man. He's not an old school CDM, who's going to be, as you said, and be that sort of bit of muscle in the midfield. He's 5'8". He's quite svelte, but he can ping a ball. So, if he comes in, then who else who's that second, that second pivot, so to speak, with Paqueta as the top of the triangle and JWP Kemp, then you still need a hard man in there. Then you don't have any running. Then it's quite a slow. Those two, whoever comes in will be arguably quite slow because obviously a CDM comes in, he's going to just sit in front of the back four. So, I don't know. I don't know about JWP now. I don't know. Maybe I'm
assuming, Russ, I'm assuming we need, right? We're going to bring in someone to sit, and we're going to come to talk about McTominay and people like that.
Yeah.
So that'll be the sitting player to replace what should have been Rice's position. And then you've got the other position, which used to be Souček, and Souček used to go forward. You remember when Souček was good a couple of seasons ago, and he used to get forward and score goals, and then him and Rice swapped around. And then that was to the detriment of. Now, I don't want to see Souček go back into that role now. So we need that central attacking midfielder, don't we?
Yeah, we do. I mean, it's one of those things where I think it's quite funny. There's obviously there's a split in every player. That's what's the great thing about having a 4-man committee, potentially. Good idea. Other committees may be available at the time. Right, let's vote. Let's vote because I want to because obviously there's loads of these guys we want to get through. So we'll go with Dan. Would you sign him? Yay or nay?
The way I feel about it, if we sign him, I'm not excited. If we don't sign him, I'm not disappointed. Yeah. I'm kind of on the fence, but 25. I lean towards signing. Someone needs to teach these mugs how to take free corners and free kicks, because I tell you what, our corners last season were atrocious. Just at least get him coaching on them. Honestly.
All right, okay, we'll put you as a tick. Let's go with Gal. What are we going to do about JWP? Are you going to sign him?
Same. I'm not excited. I'm not excited by it, but for the right price, it'd be a good play. And to see someone that can take a direct free kick as well.
He is one goal. He's one direct goal away from the all-time record held by David Beckham in the Premier League, I believe.
So
could you imagine? It's like against if we signed him, it's against Arsenal or someone like that.
Could you imagine that feeling? Remember Payet, when Payet would take a free kick and it'd feel like a penalty? It's like, oh, here we go, like having that again.
Love it. Mike, what are we going to do? We sign him?
It all comes down to price for me.
Okay,
if it's anything over 25 million, we'll say no. Okay,
well, if we're led to believe it's for about 27 million, it looks like he will come to us.
Yeah, I think that's just on the edge of acceptable, but even still, I sway more no. But if it's at that price and you're going to keep Moyes, I think as a functional player for Moyes, you accept he is the one Moyes player you would allow to slip through the net.
Yeah, the one Moyes player you can slip for the net. I like that. It's a great. Okay, so we'll say you're going to say yes. So let's put your tick in because my cursor's gone. Do you know what? Oh no, I haven't gone to him yet. Shit. There we go. Do you know what? No.
Wow.
I think I don't want him. I don't want him. And I'll tell you for why is because I think what he brings. We could probably. I mean, I think he is a one-trick pony. I'll be honest, and it's the same with. I think we were talking about Antonio to someone on one of the shows, and they said they'd let him go for £1 because of what he means. Because it means if he goes, everything changes. And for me, I think if JWP comes in, we'll be more insular, more set plays, and actually we'll be all fucked off even more.
We will be anyway, Russ. But you might as well have someone that can deliver it. This is another season of Moyes ball, you know. It's going to happen.
It's probably going to happen, but that's the idea of the committee. That's the idea of the committee. That's the idea of the committee, you see. So we still can't. Right, okay, let's talk about another guy who we put one, if not two bids in, which is Conor Gallagher. Now, by all accounts, according to today, Poch reckons he's all in his plans. He's not going. He's going to stay with us until probably the last couple of days in the transfer window where he doesn't want him. 23, 6 foot, 167 appearances, 20 goals, played at Charlton on loan, Swansea on loan, West Brom on loan, Palace on loan, and obviously Chelsea's his parent club. We've apparently had an offer, or if not two offers of 40 to 42 million rejected. Chelsea looking 50 million. Mike Gallagher.
Yeah. So Gallagher's an interesting one because obviously at Palace, he was more of a goal threat. For me, kind of played more in that Lanzini type-ish role of kind of sitting at the front and kind of being, I guess, a forward defender for Palace because in how they play. He's got an incredible engine on him. It's 23, so there is that argument as to if you sign him even at, say, 40, you have the chance to recoup that, maybe do a little bit better if he proves to be the elite player. I don't think he is, which is why Chelsea are letting him go. He had an all right season last year at Chelsea. I know some people say he didn't, but he did actually have a better season than most would say. I look at him and think for the price, he needs to be one of those players who needs to be playing consistently all the time. And consistency at the moment isn't the strongest point in his game. He would bring an incredible amount of engine and be an upgrade on what we have in Souček. He also brings some elements of what Rice does for us. But that's the point. You need to find that two in tandem that cover what Rice did kind of in the aggregate, as well as then improve and elevate what Souček does. And that's the point of, we can say, yes, we agree to this player, agree to that one, but you also have to then look as to, of the players you agree, which two work as a double pivot or as a kind of the work within a three that complement Paqueta. And that is the main problem at the moment when you look at players.
It's it's a collective, isn't it? It's not just the individual; it's how they all work together. We know, as Gal says, in terms of Souček and Rice, the first 2 years it was working, and then it didn't work at the beginning of last season because whatever happens, whether it was the management, whether it was Deck wanting to be more forward thinking, and it just didn't work. And then we only started playing well when we went back to type, and they sort of found out their spots, with Paqueta in there, and it took Paqueta 6 months to, find his feet in the Premier League. I think for me, I think Connor, I think he needs to go to a club that will play him, as you said, Mike. Well, he's what a lot of these players. It's the Euros year. There's a Euro Championship at the end of the thing. So they need to be playing first team football. Christ, we look back to, well, it used to be he should not be named, but that's now Mr. Rice. But sorry, Gal. But Jesse Lingard, he was, if he'd stayed at West Ham and that had happened rather than going to Forest, he could have been in that England squad, because he was, he was doing quite well and all that type of thing. Connor needs minutes, Connor needs game time, and I don't think he's going to get it at Chelsea. And whether it's us, whether he's the right fit for us, I just think he's a bundle of energy. And I think he's one of those players that I really would like to see more of. Probably in a West Ham shirt, maybe.
I suppose it's just where you would play him, though, because he can play in multiple positions, right? He can play as a defensive midfielder, but I wouldn't see him as a defensive midfielder. He can play as an attacking midfielder as well. I don't know where you would use him. And this is where it becomes a bit of a, I don't know, a bit confusing for me. We've just discussed James Ward-Prowse. I wouldn't want James Ward-Prowse and Conor Gallagher.
No,
right. That is not the pairing I dream of. But looking at them in isolation, if we weren't getting Ward-Prowse, I'd happily take Gallagher.
Yeah,
I think he's a better player. He's a superior player. He's got an eye for goal, and I think he's we saw that at Palace. He's, as Mike just said, very different player when he gets regular starts, and can be dangerous as well. So I'd rate him above Ward-Prowse.
What about you, Dan? You were sort of 50-50, but maybe 60-40 for JWP. What about Conor Gallagher? Does he float your boat?
No, he's definitely a good player. He looked really good at Palace. As Mike said, he was a goal threat. I mean, he tore us apart at the London Stadium. But ultimately, for what I feel like he would bring and what he does, and I said this in my video, rather than pay the 40-50 mil what Chelsea want, I'd rather just keep Fornals and play Fornals in that role.
Yeah, someone made a point. What's the difference between him and Fornals, apart from maybe 4 years?
Fornals has been wasted on the wing. Absolutely wasted. He's made to look a poor player by being played out of position. In the middle, that's where Fornals should be playing. Whether that is in that centre midfield role a bit deeper, he can absolutely do that, or further forward as an attacking midfielder. Like, I just don't see the point in slapping down all of that money on Gallagher when we have a Fornals sitting there. And
same point with Ward-Prowse, right? He can do everything that Ward-Prowse does, apart from when you talk about the set pieces. So what is it about Fornals that can't play in that number 8 role, that deep lying kind of playmaker? Let's face it, this is the player that Iniesta called his heir, who should be playing for Barcelona. And we're saying that, we should take James Ward-Prowse because he takes set pieces.
Well,
Fornals, who you could give a new contract, save £25 million, go for a young player to bring through. This is why with Ward-Prowse I'm so on the fence, because
it's funny how no matter who I discuss Fornals with, no matter when I hear Fornals getting discussed, people love Fornals. I love Fornals as well.
Yeah.
The reason I didn't consider him, and thanks for bringing him up, Dan, because it's valid. It's really valid, and I would go for that every day of the week. But do I believe Moyes is going to use him in that position? No, I don't. I think he's going to shove him out on the fucking left again.
He seems to be playing there pre-season, isn't it?
Yeah.
A few games, and he looked fucking brilliant there.
The problem is, that's by necessity as opposed to by design.
I think so. I think it's just, I think you're right. I think it's the same in terms of the formation. I think they've been playing these two up front, and I think once you see everyone back, I think once you see the Rennes game, and you'll see maybe definitely the Bayer Leverkusen game, you'll probably see back to 4-3-2, 4-2-3-1. I think just because I think, as you said, we had it was the personnel weren't there to maybe play that. But I mean, he put a great ball through to what's his face to Skamaka, didn't he? But a bit of ITK information, actual ITK information. He was on a flight back from Valencia on Sunday. My mate was sitting behind him, Pablo Fornals. Just saying. Just saying.
Someone said in the chat, they said Fornals is leaving. I haven't heard anything.
Real Betis is the side which is most likely, obviously, Pellegrini. Pellegrini bought him to West Ham, bought him as a 10 from Villarreal, didn't he? Really, he was a little tricky 10, wasn't he? And he sort of became this sort of deep lying number 8, basically, you know, box to box. Now, was it Betis are selling? They're looking at Lo Celso, wasn't it? I think it is, and he's on loan, and they want to buy, and so. Look, we'll see.
He's one of them players that has been wasted under David Moyes. That's for sure.
Yeah. Definitely. Right. Okay. So let's start with the committee, the transfer committee. Right. Okay. Let's go with Gary first. Are you going to sign Conor Gallagher?
Listen, I think he's a good player. And I think he would be an improvement over the void in the middle. It ain't going to be a competition between him and Fornals in my eyes, no matter what Moyes does in pre-season, because Moyes doesn't seem to give a toss about pre-season, right? Yeah. That's why he signs all these players in the last week of the window. So look, I've said yes to Will Prowse. I'm going to say no to him. I can't say yes to both of them, can I?
Big cross. Right, Mike, what are we going to do?
For me, it's no, because one, the price point, they want 50 million. Two, he also wants to fight for his place, so we'll be chasing someone who's not really that interested. And also 50 million, you can probably bring in 2 players in as well, one high quality, one young player for the same price. And I just think that you can wait later in the window when Chelsea need to spend. And the other thing is, he will be cheaper next year because Chelsea will most likely be in a European competition. And financial fair play will be something that they'll need to resolve.
They'll need to sort it out. Yeah, good point. They don't have to worry about that this season. Dan, Connor, what's happening?
Yeah, look, if it was a loan, absolutely, I'd snatch your hand off for him on loan.
All right, 50, say 45 million quid.
45, 50 mil, yeah, for all the reasons that's been said. I'm not having him at West Ham. Sorry, Connor.
I'm gonna be such an idiot, but I like him, so I'm saying yeah.
You're just trying to be the contrarian.
I'm not being David Moyes. I'm not being David Moyes, but
yeah, you are.
I really like him. I think he's got like energy, and we desperately need some energy because Declan Rice brought it all, and so you know we need someone in there, but maybe someone else, maybe we'll have another player. But anyway, we still haven't agreed.
He did say today he wanted to stay and fight for his place.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, and Poch says that, but that's the right thing to do. That's the right thing that people say in it. So, you know, very rarely do players say, unless you know you're an out of context Italian journalist saying that Scamacca wants to go to Roma for the rest of his life and all that type of stuff.
Yeah,
you toe the line, don't you? Do toe the party line. I mean, he shouldn't maybe named. He said that he was a West Ham player and I'm going to do this and I'm fighting and and wherever will be and you know. So he just plays the crowd, isn't he?
He seems to have stepped it up since he had a bad performance. Fucking hell, I hope his performances pick up a bit. Sorry, I shouldn't be swearing.
Exactly, but he, as I said, he's just discovered football. If you read his quote today, he didn't know football. Yeah. He's opened his eyes in the last 2 weeks in terms of what football really means.
Must now, be amazing being reborn like that, mustn't it?
That to me harks of Frank Lampard leaving and saying we was a pub team. Do you know what I mean?
After his dad got sacked. Yeah.
There we go. Right. Okay. Yeah. Right. Right. Let's go with Scott McTominay. This will be an interesting one. Get your thoughts. 26, 6'4", big lad, 200 plus first team appearances, 19 goals. Verbal offer rejected, whatever that means. Apparently, United want 45 million quid for him. Start with you, Gal. Thoughts?
Well, I like him. He's one that I do like, and I'd like to see us sign because he's the right age as well, 26. Got bags of experience with Man U, but that's too expensive. 45 million for McTominay is too expensive, I'm afraid. You know, I don't know. I'd be looking at him as round about the 30 mark.
Is it a function because it's? I mean, the trouble is now. I think all the prices now have been increased probably by about 20-30% at least because of he who should not be named.
No. Listen, right? If Daniel Levy accepted 105 million for their version of Declan Rice, do you think he'd accept teams bumping their prices up?
True.
Not a
yeah.
chance. Not
But
a
actually,
chance. And if
it's
you
not
can't
even-
get him for the right price, you go and get another player. Don't
Yeah.
be ripped off.
It's also though, it wasn't he shouldn't be name's fault, because Real Madrid bought Bellingham for almost 100 million pounds, didn't they? And so that didn't include the homegrown tax, the Premier side to Premier side tax as well, because that is what you get on top because he's a homegrown player and he counts.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
probably
look,
about right.
Man City have got more money than anyone. Just because they've got more money than anybody, does that mean that every time they go in to buy a player, they have to pay 25% more? No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Look at Rice, or he should not be named, or whatever they did with that deal. They went, they want 100 mil. He ain't worth that. See you later.
Yeah.
They could have easily outbid Arsenal.
Yeah,
They
they never do that though. I think I think what I've always said is City are really ruthless. What they do is Pep will say, right, okay, this year you're out. We can improve in all these positions, and we get in, and Kyle Walker goes, and Riyad Mahrez goes, and last year it was Gabriel Jesus he literally goes, right, okay, we can improve this position. Jesus out, Haaland in. Yeah, that's not a bad
The important
upgrade.
thing is also Pep evolves what he wants to do each season. Like he found a problem this year in that his fullbacks were getting exposed, and the way that he played. So his way to do that was to play a fullback on either wing back position, each fullback position, and then invert them, but also then have one drop into a back three, which meant Rodri didn't have to do the work in that piece. He could be a shield. They could push one further up to, again, overload midfield. So type people like Pep go, I have a way I want to play, but I also now need to evolve it. So I need these type of players because these are what I am thinking of. So once he goes to get players like a Kanji, play multiple positions, John Stones, he develops his own players to fit a function. What do? We don't develop them. We just kind of go, maybe you just play out there. Rather than going, actually, we've got a space in midfield now. Move Fornals out of that left wing position, which we're completely stacked, and put him in centre midfield. We don't do that. We just go, no, you've worked for me there. You'll remain there. That's our mindset.
I think McTominay is an interesting character in terms of, I think Gonza did a show today where he was talking about, he's playing the game, Moyes or Steinden for all the, which
my God.
Yeah. So who's this? Yeah. So this one. So McTominay is, we haven't even spoken about, that's the whole sort of Steinden and Moyes dynamic. But I think McTominay. I mean, he's 26. I think I totally. And I know there's a divide between people who, I so want us to sort of, have something for the future and build and get something and develop players. But we're up shit creek without a paddle. We've got a big gaping midfield hole, I think, in the side, which was going to be 4 or 5 weeks' time, when we start. Scott McTominay, and that's why I was quite keen about getting Polina in, because he could literally slot in. He's 28. I know it was expensive. We're not going to get him now because he's got a broken arm, dislocated arm. But still, it's like he can go in and just hit the ground running. Yes, you can go and buy Fofana and stuff like that. We'll talk about Fofana and stuff in a minute. But I like McTominay. I do like him, not as a CDM, but as like if I think McTominay and Alvarez or someone like that, and Paqueta as a 10, I think that's got some energy there. I think so. Dan, what do you think about McTominay? What do you think? I heard your thoughts about him on your show this afternoon.
Yeah, well, look, it's as I said today. Look, as much as I do like him and think he'd be a decent player, but 30 mil I agree. That's what I would pay. And look, we can talk about inflated markets and things like that, but the way I look at it, and this is exactly the same thing I said, is they want to sell McTominay. We didn't want to sell Rice. That's why they had to pay over the odds. Same with Paulinho. Fulham don't want to sell him, so you're going to have to pay over the odds. When you're a club that need to get rid of a player, that want to get rid of a player, sorry, you're going to have to take a reduced price. You can't sit here and inflate your prices for players that are surplus to requirements. So at the end of the day, we shouldn't allow ourselves to be mugged off.
Yeah, true.
Absolutely.
I'd like to get players in soon rather than later, but we still have 6 weeks left of the window, right? So move on. Say, right, you keep McTominay. I can't see anyone else paying that price for him, 45 million. Who's going to pay it? Chuck him like a 30 mil plus add-ons, take it or leave it. This is our offer. Okay, you keep McTominay. You have him. We'll go and find quality elsewhere. We talk about Steidtan. We've brought him in. So surely, rather than letting ourselves get mugged off because just someone's a Premier League player, then go, all right, look, we're not getting value here. We're getting mugged off in the Premier League. Let's see what we can get in Europe. So I think it'd be a good addition, no way for that price. No way.
I think actually someone made a good point in the chat about in terms of bedding in and stuff like that. Yeah, these guys shouldn't need bedding in. The first three we've mentioned, all Premier League players.
No,
as I said, I think I said something before. You look at everyone we bought in last season. Arguably, the most consistent for us the whole season was Emerson, because he literally came in. He knows the Premier League. He was played like he'd already been playing for us for a couple of years. I thought he was consistent throughout. He didn't need a bedding in period like Paqueta did or Kira did. He just came in and did a job. You can hold back and buying a Premier League player until towards the end of the transfer window, because they can slot straight in. They're doing the pre-season stuff anyway, and you might get a better deal then.
This is why it should be a mix, I think. And look, Man United are in for Amrabat at the moment as well, aren't they? And someone else as well. Now, once they've made those few signings, I think towards the end of the window they're going to get a little bit more desperate to move him on.
Let's look at this one. Amrabat's coming in for about 35 million euros, about 30 million pounds. He's coming in to go into their first team. McTominay isn't in their first team. They're buying a player for 30 million pounds, and they're asking us to pay 45 million.
This is where
that in itself is where you just go red flag, back away from the deal.
But this is where Steidten, he should be. Had David Sullivan had the bollocks to set it up properly, set the organisation up properly. You bring in a director of football, technical director, get them to report directly to Sullivan, the manager, and all of the other coaches report to the technical director of football. He sets the strategy, he decides the signings and everything else. What have we got? This dog's dinner of voting. 4 votes, so they can. and David Moyes apparently gets the casting vote, or does he? Because apparently that was denied yesterday. Today we've heard that Sullivan's asked both Steidten and Moyes to give him their lists. That's another different way of doing it. So what's Sullivan doing? Having a party trying to find the cheapest one? I don't know. But I'd rather rely on Steidten, because we've seen the Moyes signings over the years. We've seen what Moyes wants. If Moyes had his way in this window, we would have McTominay, JWP, the big lump at the back, Slabhead.
Talk about him later.
And with no sell-on value for any of them, he spends like he's still the Man United manager, right? He doesn't spend within his means. I looked at Sam Allardyce. This is something I said on our show the other night. I looked at Sam Allardyce in his last window. Last window at West Ham, it was his last year. We all knew it was his last year.
Moyes,
what a fantastic group of players he signed, in like Chiari and lots of different players, all from all over. And he signed them for relative peanuts. I in my mind, I thought he was a similar sort of manager to Moyes, but he really wasn't. Moyes wouldn't do that. He built 6 or 7 players in. 6 of them, I think, were regulars in the first team throughout the season. Moyes would not do that. Moyes will just say, right, I've got 105 million to spend, 40 million for him, 50 million for him, whatever. No resale value, don't care. And that's not good. That sort of manager is not good for a club like West Ham, because 150 million mistake is one too many.
Yeah. I think the trouble is as well, I think it does stem down to the fact that we've got a manager who's got less than 12 months left in his contract.
Yeah.
So there's no incentive for him, realistically, apart from he needs, in theory, he's playing for a new contract potentially, or maybe he's going to leave, retire or whatever. So he's doing that. So why does he need to? So it's all about next season. It's all about next season. So he's going and buying Premier League ready players that he knows can do a job. And if we have a decent season, we finish top 10, maybe we have a decent run in the cups or whatnot, then. And I think Nick's in the chat is going to explode. He could then be offered a new deal because
no, that is like more. No, never offer him a new
deal.
deal.
That's what he's playing for.
Well, if he wins another trophy, I tell
Yeah.
you what, I'll go and fucking hand him the deal myself.
That's
I
what
will
he's
go
playing
in.
for, though. That's what he's
We're
playing
also
for.
gonna
So,
see him as
are
we're
you
gonna
not
have to go aboard.
If you won another trophy, yes, that is literally the
If
only
you're-
circumstance.
so you're not surprised. So therefore, you can't be surprised that he doesn't want to buy players who are going to be sell on value in 3, 4, 5 years' time because he's not going to be there potentially.
Exactly.
So
why is he
issue.
being allowed, Russ, to make the decisions?
So why is he still there? Or why is he
Well,
not being
yeah,
offered a new
why?
contract? That's the
Indeed.
trouble.
He's
So it
still
should
here
be
because
one or the
Sullivan
other.
doesn't want to get rid of him because he knows a backlash will come potentially from fans going and the press. More importantly, the press, because he has got a lot of friends in the press.
He has got a lot of friends in the press, yes.
That will then make the point as to, you've just sacked a guy who's won the first trophy for you in 40 odd years.
Yeah.
He's been brilliant for you. Yes, you had a bad season last year, but you need to show loyalty. And they would have been lambasted. And
We would have been slaughtered in there.
Of course it would be.
And what we know about Sullivan is he's got a very thick skin when it comes to fans, but he is incredibly delicate when the press starts saying he doesn't know what he's doing.
True.
Yeah. And it's a good point. We should just get Pardew and Kieran again.
Yeah.
and then Tevez and Mascherano turn up. Oh, brilliant! Right, okay, McTominay. Let's start with you, Gary. What we do? Let's start with Dan. Let's start with Dan this time.
Like I said, like Gallagher, it comes down to price. I think he would be good for us, especially in the Moyes team. I've seen, like, you see quality in him at Man United, just not seeing the consistency, and a lot of that is down to it being Man United. And I think, he would be a lot more consistent, a lot better at West Ham, a better fit. But he's not £45 million good. It's not like, because it's still a risk. It's not, spend half the Rice money on him. And at the end of the day, like I said, can't allow ourselves to get mugged off. Say no, thank you. If you want to come with a sensible and reasonable price, then get in touch with us. Otherwise, we're going to be looking at other players.
So we'll say,
no.
So you say no at 45 million at the moment?
Hell no.
Hell no. Mike?
Just no. Straight up, no.
Just no.
In fact, stupid. He is the Scottish Souček. There's no. Just you look at his statistics. I'm not kidding you. He works within both boxes. That is it. He is terrible in possession, terrible progressing play. All the things that we moan about Souček, and yet we're going, why not go?
He's better than Souček. Come on,
not. Statistically, he's not. Check it out. I shit you not. I've got all the statistics. He maps almost identically to Souček. If it is an improvement, it is beyond marginal as an improvement. Same with Paulinho. They are just slight improvements and more expensive Součeks. That is it. They're an absolute no. They're functional players for David Moyes, and they fit David Moyes now. We're looking at a West Ham for the next 3-4 years. The next manager comes in is not going to want functional players that can work in our penalty box, gets maybe 1 goal a season, which is what he's got, 1 goal per season in the last 2 Premier League seasons. And it's a player who can't hold the ball, pass the ball, is terrible under pressure. United fans were ripping him constantly all year because he can't hold the ball and pass the ball. He's in a possession-based team. Who have players who can actually move off the ball. They're playing in a Ten Hag team who pass, they move, they get into positions. He couldn't find them half the time. And we're talking about putting him in a West Ham team, which are static.
Yeah. Okay.
It's just a functional player.
So Mike definitely doesn't. So Mike doesn't want him. Gal, what do you want? Do you want him?
Well, I think I've just fallen for Mike's reverse sales pitch.
Love it.
I think I'm going to vote against him now, because that thing he said about uncomfortable in possession, uncomfortable when people get in his face, that's exactly the problem that Souček's got.
Yeah.
I don't want that. Oh, also, right. I just think there's better value to be had. He's not going to come cheap. Who we kidding? 30 million, I think, would be a reasonable price. But he's going to cost more, and there's better value to be had abroad, isn't there?
Yeah, there is.
Or at least spend that money on Onana from Everton.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Gets my vote every time.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, we're not covering him today because that's we haven't put a verbal bid in for him.
Why is he not ahead of McTominay in our priority?
Should be.
Yeah,
it'll probably be about 60 million, and probably be about 120 grand ish in wages.
Yeah,
I would throw an extra 15 mil if we're willing to pay 45 for McTominay, just
Yeah.
stick an extra 15 mil and get Onana in if it's
I think
that.
it's also the embarrassment of we messed it up last year. And we're having
Yeah,
to go
but-
back with our tail between our legs, and now we're
We've
going
done
to him, you know what? You're actually now worth the money you said you were worth last year, but he's also going to ask for more. So it's a bit embarrassing from the club and for Moyes to have to climb down and say, yeah, you're now worth the money you said you were.
Yeah, but Everton need to sell, don't they? They need to sell anyway.
Everybody do,
So
but again, still, they know it's an asset, so they're going to hold out.
do you
for
know
at
what?
least
It's
60.
really annoying because I really like McTominay. Because I like the Scottish McTominay, the McTominay who plays for Scotland, not the one who plays for Man United. You know, he as a youngster, McTominay was a striker, so he's got a bit more about him. Oh, I don't want to be the Sullivan or the Moyes vote.
You're going to do it again, aren't you?
I'm going to fucking do it. I don't care. I'm my own person.
going
I'm not easily led. I'm my own person.
I'm going to go with whatever we're against. We've
No,
all been in the lineup.
because I think
It feels personal, doesn't it?
because I think a couple are going to come up where I think we're going to pretty much say yes. So let's just go to them. Let's talk about Edson Alvarez. He
I like it.
Yeah, 25, 6'2",
Yeah.
a bruiser, 260 first team appearances, 18 goals. He's a classic CDM, Club America in League MX or Mexico, and Ajax. Verbal offer apparently made. Apparently Ajax want 35 to 40 million quid. Dan, let's start with you. Obviously not Premier League proven, but does that really matter?
Yeah, I'm really undecided on Alvarez, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, a lot of them qualities there, I think, would be good, especially in a Moyes team. But I don't know, there's something about him. He just seems like a bit of a big lump and on the ball, not too composed, not too good when it comes to actually playing with the football. So. Yeah, I would over the other names that we've had. What was the price? Did you say?
I think about 35 million. Basically, obviously, he was going to Borussia Dortmund, and apparently they'd already signed. They'd agreed personal terms. I never understand how that works before he's spoken to the club and agreed the fee. But then, obviously, Dortmund have got 100 million pounds in the bank, basically burning a hole as well, 100 million euros from Bellingham, and they said no. To the price. I think it was about 30 to 35 million they wanted for him.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't had the best track record with Mexican players, West Ham.
What are you moaning about?
It was epic.
Yeah, exactly. Hernandez.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I liked Hernandez. He just was not a fit for West Ham.
No.
But yeah, 30 mil. I'll take a punt as a defensive midfielder to hold. Yeah, I guess I'll take a punt. I've said no to all the others, and then we're going to hit a ball. We'll want to sign someone. So right now,
that's the trouble. That's the trouble, isn't it? We're gonna. That's what it seems at the moment with West Ham. Literally, we've got to sign someone. So it's like let's just go like.
Well, I'm going to hear what the rest of you lads have to say. Maybe you'll sway me one way or the other, but I'm kind of on the fence.
What about you, Gary? Any thoughts?
I'm more excited about this one just because it's a bit of an unknown as to whether he can do it in the Premier League or not.
Yeah.
It could go horribly wrong. Who knows? He's got a very good record with Ajax. Been there a couple of years. Been a regular. Got lots of Champions League experience. He's he is just a stopper, isn't he? He's literally just a stopper, and that is really what we depended upon Rice for. It was that part of his game, wasn't it? It was sitting in front of the back three, back four, and reading the game well and cutting the ball out. And if he's just going to do that part of Rice's game, from what I've seen of him, he could do it. So I would rather us pay. I think that's 35 million euros, right? So I think it's close to 30 million quid, 32 million quid, which I think is far more reasonable than 45 million for McTominay.
Obviously, he was part of the side which won the Gold Cup. Obviously, Mikel and Tony got knocked out of semis, didn't they? And he won the Gold Cup. So obviously, you probably will have a bit like Antonio. He's pre-season started a bit later than everyone else's because he was obviously more involved in the internationals. Obviously, Mike, I always turn to you with the stats. Ederson, obviously, people say he's just a blocker. Is that true? Is that true? What he does?
No, there's a bit more to him than that. But the great thing for us, and something that Moyes has always loved in a player, is he can play multiple positions, right? So he gives that option to in-game be able to change things tactically. So he can play as a defensive midfielder. He does love a card, to be fair. He is an aggressive player. And let's face it, if there's one thing West Ham fans like,
be a legend.
The player's aggressive, gets in players' faces. There's a lovely clip of him, I think, from the Gold Cup where he's fouled someone. He gets up, players giving him a bit of verbal, and he just stands there and just goes,
Bring him in.
That's it.
Which is the type of thing that West Ham fans absolutely love. They love a player who has that bastard element about him. But yeah, he's not scared to do that, little nasty thing around him. Yeah. Again, as I say, he can drop into a back three. So, if you're playing in the midfield with him as a kind of the base of it, he does allow us to push our fullbacks up really high. So, how like Fiorentina played against us, where they had their two centre-backs split wide, Amrabat dropped in the middle to collect the ball and drive forward. That's basically what he's going to allow us to do, allow us to push our fullbacks up to be really aggressive. Bowen and then Benrahma can come right inside, right next to our centre forward. And then again, you've got Paqueta that can push up as well. So it allows you to be really aggressive in possession because he's very comfortable dropping into our backline because he is a midfielder come defender become midfielder. That's basically what his role is. So he is decent.
I just wonder.
But
I just wonder, Mike, if he can do that in the under the furious pace of the Premier League. That's
used to the pace. But let's remember, look at Leandro Martinez, who went to Man United.
Yeah,
6 foot, 5'7" centre back. People saying he wouldn't deal with the pace of the Premier League. He wouldn't be able to manage with the aerial threat. It's the same kind of argument. They're good players. It's a bit like when you looked at Van Dijk when he was at Celtic. No one would have assumed he would be the player that went on to Liverpool. But because they're also playing in the leagues, that's far easier for them. It's actually too easy in terms of the quality. So in actual fact, sometimes they play kind of at half pace, half gear. He does have good tenacity. There are obviously elements in his game that still need to improve, and he would have to get used to the speed of the Premier League because you are going to get less time. However, he does that thing that we need, someone who can marshal that defence. He is also a goal threat as well. I think he had 5 goals this season, all from kind of set pieces as well. Because again, he's got that Dawson element as to if there's a ball to attack from a cross from a set piece, he is going to fling himself at it. Like we used to see with Souček, but that's kind of gone. He will do those elements and he will kind of break things down and then he'll pass it on. And he does have a much better kind of completion rate and much more secure than, say, the likes of Souček. It will be interesting to see how he does adapt with less space and kind of less time because at Ajax, let's face it, you dominate the ball. So it's sometimes easier. But arguably, you have to look at him in the Champions League rather than the Eredivisie as to the quality and type of player he is.
Yeah, I mean, in terms, so if Alvarez comes in, it's very much as the sort of the CDM role and as a replacement to Tommy Souček. As we said, it would be a combination. I think it's 2 midfielders we'd be bringing in, and Alvarez would be the more defensive minded, and then you would need sort of the more box to boxy type player. As it could even be Fornals, for example, doing that. Right, okay, let's vote for this one. Let's start with Mike. We haven't started with Mike yet. What are we doing, Mike? Are we signing Edson?
I'd say one that I would happily explore. I think he's good age, good value. Not that I think, I always say talk about resale, but that's mainly because I think that in 1 to 2 years, you may have to sell a player to fund other additions, or you also need to look at it as in maybe if this player does well, this is going to fund us because someone's going to put £50 million in. We're going to make some money and we can go and buy the next set of good players. I actually have no problems with us not being a selling club, but keeping one eye on players as to are they going to generate future funds because we have to be sustainable. And I think that's our problem. We're not sustainable. So for me, I will take him because I think he gives us that potential for a sustainable transfer.
Yep, nice. Gal, what are we doing?
I think this is a Steiden pick, but very much a David Moyes player. right?
Ooh.
Somebody who would fit the David Moyes system. It sounds perfect for CDM. Hopefully, he could make the step up to the Premier League. Can also play centre half as well, which would be quite good because I know Moyes is kind of fancying the three at the back this year, and that's what all that Maguire nonsense was about. So yes, it's a yes from me in summary.
Yeah,
to be fair, guys, as well. Moyes did actually. We looked at him before we went to Ajax, and that was when Moyes was with us. I think in his first stint. So we have actually looked at him.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, cool. So so well, that's good. I think that he always keeps a hold on some players, doesn't he? He just he might have tracked them. And he finally gets his man. Dan.
Yeah, I'm on the fence about Alvarez, but I'm leaning towards, and we're talking about 35 million euros, 30 mil. I would take a punt on him, especially we're signing him to be that DM. Massive upgrade on Souček for sure, and potentially an improvement on Downs. So I'm going to go with him, and I guess we know where you're voting, Russ. We know which direction now you're going. Oh wow!
Almost definitely.
What a
twist! No, really?
We're signing this one. I think this guy. I think the fact is he's 6'2", and we, I mean, I think his eyes.
They're not blue.
They're not blue, sadly. But I think we haven't had a nasty player, and I love a nasty player.
Yeah.
We haven't had one of them probably since Nolan.
Repka. The Mexican Thomas Repka.
The Mexican
we have been
Thomas
too
Repka.
nice under Moyes.
We're too nice.
To be a like a grubby sort of set piece defensive. The crap football we play. It's too nice. It don't make sense.
Nice. We're too nice.
So,
someone made a really good point.
I
was listening to Arsenal Fan TV after the
you do it to yourself.
I know. Well, I wanted to laugh after the Man United game, and someone said, how like Man United. I think I know Ty and a few others were saying, "Oh, we just got kicked. Man United just kicked us. They kicked us everywhere." And he says, "Well, the trouble is because they didn't have Granit Xhaka anywhere because he wasn't there anymore now. So they were almost like letting them be kicked." And you need someone like this to go. You can imagine those European games where like all the dark arts are happening, and someone like Ederson just gets in someone's face and just stops it. So yes. Right, we'll do a couple more, then we'll call it a day because otherwise we'll get very depressed because we probably won't sign any of these. Right, let's go with let's go with Youssef Fofana because he's another one we've been linked with, and again this is one which I think this one's either Steindl signing and Moyes is uncertain. I mean Fofana's 24, 6'1", 215 first team appearances, 11 goals, played for Strasbourg. Obviously, former the director. Well, there will know who director for Strasbourg is Mark Keller, former West Ham player.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's and obviously Strasbourg is where obviously Paul Nevin's going, isn't he? Obviously, what's the name bought it out, didn't they? Todd bought Strasbourg out, or big man. Patrick Riera is the manager there, isn't he? At Strasbourg, I think. Yeah. But obviously, currently of Monaco, French international. Apparently 35 million is the sort of the fee, very similar to Alvarez. I mean, for me, this guy is like just a unit. He's a tank. And I'm not. I mean, Mike. I mean, I turn to you because there's been some talk of him being more of a defensive midfielder, but also he can play box to box. What does he do? What's his role for Monaco?
So not last season because obviously that one's been, but the season before he pretty much played as a defensive midfielder. Yeah. But obviously they had Tchouaméni, who basically is the French version of Declan Rice. Yeah. In all honesty, and he basically elevated his game, which resulted in Real Madrid buying him. He was one of the absolute linchpins in that midfield that year, probably the better midfielder throughout that season. And much like Rice, he's kind of evolved from this kind of 6 who has some abilities to carry the ball to being more of an 8. So this year he's been far more of an 8, far more of the player that's been used to drive them forward. And he's got such a kind of imposing frame and good kind of upper body and physique that he's able to strong arm players and to take the ball on the turn and to kind of run and kind of drag the team forward. And that's one of the things we're going to miss with Declan Rice. And when we look at the players that we're linked to, Ward-Prowse isn't going to bring that.
No.
Conte is not going to bring that. Yusuf Fofana is the only one of those ones linked who actually has that ability to get the ball and carry it and to kind of absorb pressure as well. He can at times be a little clumsy, but that's again because he does also try to do things under pressure, which is something we should applaud, not necessarily go, oh, well, that's a bad thing, because you want players to take those chances. That was one of the criticisms of Paqueta last year until we learned when and where to do that and obviously getting settled into the league. And all of a sudden, when he was taking those chances, you're like, what a player. And he's that same kind of one who will make you more dynamic in midfield. He is truly box to box. He's not afraid to get his foot in, likes to get forward, doesn't necessarily score enough goals, but if he's able to give you that drive and other players can bring that instead of him, then you've kind of got around that kind of problem. And I think that's the main thing. We don't have a player that can't carry it in midfield. We're asking a hell of a lot of Paqueta to pick up essentially all of that drive that he had last year, but almost then double it because he needs to arguably cover for what we've lost in Declan Rice going.
I mean, for me, obviously, I think he's physically very dominating. And again, in the Premier League, I think, the teams, you do need a focal point. And we haven't had a physically dominating sort of midfielder probably since, Jesus, not for a long time. I mean, I wouldn't even say Cecchiato was particularly physically dominating. He was quite skinny.
But he had a stride. That's the thing.
He had a stride to him, yeah.
Maybe like up, you couldn't get near him because he just had such a stride on him that for every one kind of run that you do, he's done like 2 paces ahead because of how his stride was. And I think the interesting thing is with Fofana is he's been linked with Brighton as well. And as we know, Brighton have a very good scouting system. And he's one of the players they're potentially looking at if Caicedo goes. So
there we go. We don't need to do more scouting because just let Brighton do it for us, isn't it? Gal, what do you think?
Well, I must admit, this is one I don't know much about, but I like the sound of him. He sounds very good. I like the idea of, well, look, I say I like the idea of a box to box midfielder and somebody who's going to get the team further up the pitch and stuff like that, similar to Declan Rice. However, I think when we were at our most effective last year towards the end of the season, Declan Rice had really largely stopped doing that and reverted to covering the back four and also covering the left back position when Cresswell was playing and stuff like that. So I think he'd kind of stopped doing that, so we'd stop benefiting from it. Now I don't know whether that would be something we would revert to deliberately, or whether we just set up the midfield differently. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that's if we want the player to do all of those roles,
Yeah. Dan, what do you think about Yusuf Fofana? 24, good age.
Yeah, no, good age, as they say. Really interests me now, Fofana. I believe this is a Stuyton pick, and I'm sure we were. His name cropped up when Noble first sort of took over his role. I think it's
quite possibly because Nobes did a lot of did a little bit round tour, didn't he? And obviously he went to Monaco with Paul Mitchell. Yeah, he obviously who was linked with the potential technical director's job. So he did go to Monaco quite a lot, and I think he was and also Axel as well, the centre back. I
think when he scouted Axel, Fofana one man in the match, and I think he came away with 2 goals. So it's actually more likely a Noble pick that probably Stuyton is very much on top of as well.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, it's definitely a player that I think, like you said, he's a physical specimen. For all the reasons that you've all said, he definitely interests me, and he's a cheaper alternative to Onana. Obviously Onana's got a bit of that pedigree, that Premier League experience, but if you go and pay 30-35 for Fofana as an alternative as opposed to Onana, I think that's good value, and I think he's got the attributes to suit the Premier League. I think he'll be just fine.
He's more of a complete player than Onana is. When Onana came over, Onana's incredibly raw, and Onana could probably outgo Fofana in terms of overall ability, but Fofana's far more rounded already. Obviously, he's a few years older, but he's far more rounded than Onana, and it will cost us less, probably both wages and fee.
Yeah, I don't think that price difference between Fofana and Onana is worth it. And like you said, a much more well-rounded player. So, yeah, I'm taking him.
You're taking him. We'll just say Dan's going to take it. I think also this is the reason. I think the Fofana deal, if it comes off, for me, this is why we've got Tim Steindl in.
Yeah,
this is what we, as you said, you could go and get an Nana again. He's Premier League ready, but you're going to be paying £20 million for him, more than you're going to pay for an Nana at least, than Fofana rather. And granted, Nana is a couple of years younger than him and maybe a little bit taller, but regardless of that, this guy, I think he could do it. Gal, what do you think? I
love the sound of him. I really do love the sound of him. What Mr. May said about there's people have more defined roles these days, and that's kind of in my ham-fisted way what I was trying to say. However, seeing as Dan said he's a Tim Steindl pick, I don't want to sound petty, but I really am. I like the sound of him, and he's a Steindl pick, so he gets my vote.
And by the sounds of it, Mike, you'll side him.
Oh, if I say no, then that's a complete
after all that
whole massive thread I did on Dublin Iron. So yeah, it's a definite yes.
Yeah, and it's a yes for me because I think this guy's mustard. Right, we'll do one more. This is fun, but we'll do one more because otherwise we could have done Dennis Zakaria, and by the sounds of it, Monaco are looking at Dennis Zakaria as Fofana's replacement. So there we go. So right, let's find a fun one. Let's do one for Gary. Right, we're going to zoom through. Right, let's find a one for Gary. Won't do Harwood Bellis. I think we'd all want him in. Chalobah. Right, here we go. Slabhead. We'll finish on a high. Because I think it's quite. Because for me, I've got a bit of a Moyes mood about it. Right, 6'4", 30, 508 first team appearances, 28 goals, played for the Pigs, Sheffield United, Hull City, Wigan on loan, Leicester, Man United. Price tag, fuck knows. Could be stupid money by the sounds of it. Stupid money. Right, let's start with Gary. Go on, Gary. Go on, Gal.
Has the turning circle of the Dover to Calais ferry. He is slow, very slow, prone to mistakes for Man United, but not for England, strangely enough, even though he has made a few for England lately. He's 30 years old. There is no future with this signing, and there are other centre-halves out there who would cost a fraction of the price. Why the hell are we even looking at him?
I have no idea. I mean, actually, I do. I have a slight idea. I think the whole. I think at Man United, he was better at Leicester than he was at Man United. I think Man United play a high line, and he's not great at a high line. He's slow. In the same way that when Mr. Dawson signed for us, we were all like, "Fucking Craig Dawson, fucking hell!" Turned out to be one of our, one of our best signings that season.
Yeah, I know, but that was different, right? Dawson was like $1.5 million. That was a real stab in the dark. This is a premium price player with no return value in a couple of years' time. I don't see. I mean, the worry for me, the big worry for me is he comes in. We're going 3 at the back. Sorry, 5 at the back, as Moyes calls it, right? Because he's not dropping Zuma. He's not dropping Aguerd. He sits in the middle. So we have Aguerd doing all the running for the other two because Zuma's not very fast, is he? I don't know. It doesn't work for me. There are so many better options out there, cheaper options out there as well.
I think we sort of zoom through one. I think Harwood Ellis is Bellis. He's a very good player, and even Chalobah, I think for Chelsea, he's a good player against 6'4", good age. I think Maguire, obviously, I mean, Dan, what do you think about Maguire?
Look, I'm not as down on him as Gary. I would take him on loan, but we're not talking about loans here, right? We're talking about buying him, right, for a very high fee of what they want. I think he suits a David Moyes team. It's what we talk about. Why he looks so good for Southgate, because he's, he's limited. He functions very well in a certain type of team, right? And I think he would suit us down to the T. He's captained his team. I don't think he was an exceptionally great captain for Man United. So, I don't think we should look at him as a top leader. And he's got some experience, but at 30 years old, on the wages that he's on, and I know he'd probably take a wage cut, but his wage cut would still be, way too much for him. For him to be one of our highest paid players would be absolutely criminal. And again, we talk about how he suits Moyes. Again, Moyes is on his last year of his contract. So Moyes pisses off. We get the new exciting manager we want, and he's stuck with a Harry Maguire that he can't move on, at the end of the day. So it is not worth it. It's just not worth having him, signing him for the future, in terms of future, for that short-term game of him just suiting Moyes. Comes with too much baggage, too much money. No.
What do you think? What do you think then, Mike?
It's no. Just no. I'll give you my reasons though.
He'd only sign on it'd be a minimum of a 3-year contract. So what Dan says, right? It'd be on 150 grand a week, 3-year deal. New manager would come in. It'd be sitting in the reserves, wouldn't he?
It's a £76 million investment. If you put 4 years at 150 grand plus 40 to 45 million pounds, that's a £76 million investment on a 30-year-old.
Yeah.
But if you need someone to model the first team kit next season, as someone said in the chat,
what is he going to be? Is he going to be for the backdrop because his head is that big they can put a whole green screen on it? Right. I'll give the reasons why. No, because he is a very functional player, so he fits within a very particular function. You have to play a low block. He arguably you want to play him in a free because that protects him. And again, the age and the overall investment is crazy for a 30-year-old, and especially for a club like West Ham. So, in 2 years, if it doesn't work out, we're not going to get anywhere near what we got from him. We're probably also going to have to pay a portion of his wages. Let's not forget, before, just as the season was ending, there was even talks about United paying out his whole contract so he can go on a free. Stripped him of his captaincy because he had a fight in, Mykonos or wherever it was. It's when you start to look at these things, how then can you say you want 45 million for him? And as Dan was saying about McTominay, they want to sell him. Don't get mugged off. Don't get drawn in by the things that do seem very enticing. So if you're Moyes, the enticing thing is he was a captain, has been for this country, has been for Man United. He can defend crosses. He can attack crosses when it comes to in the opposite box. Works within a back line, in a deep kind of set like Dawson did. Will put his body on the line. Yeah, a decent passer, and he will obscure and he'll look away from the other elements. Dawson, before we signed him, before we played in that such a defensive kind of back line to protect him, he was error prone, and we saw that in the last, towards the end of the season last year, also the year before. There's a couple of errors that came in, like the penalty against Man City, which had no reason to give away. Then obviously the following season, he made a couple of silly little mistakes with some of his passing and so on to kind of put players in advantageous positions. Maguire's the same type. If you protect him, he can be a very good player. But for a West Ham United to be investing 70-odd million pounds in a 30-year-old is absolutely ludicrous.
It's not a priority position for us, is it? I mean, it's not saying we don't need someone. We do need someone. I think we need a cover. I think someone like I said, Harbour Bellis, for example, 15 million quid from Man City would come in, do a good job. We know Zuma's going to be out for at least 10 games next season. It goes without saying.
Got the AFCON as well.
So, he's got the AFCONs for a Gerd, so you've got Oggy to cover that. But if Oggy gets injured, then you've got to cover. Last 3 years, we've gone in with 4 centre-backs and ended up halfway through the season with 1 every season.
We've got Kera. We've still got Kera.
We've got Kera. We've still got Ben. At the moment, Aaron's still there as well. He played left side centre back, didn't he?
He's still there,
instead of Alese.
You've got still there.
Yeah. You've got got Casey coming through. You've got Luis Al because he's did really well in the pre-seasons. Own goal and a penalty. So I don't think it's a priority for us. But right, so we'll go for this one. So definitely. So we're gonna go. Gal, you're not gonna sign him, are you?
No.
Dan, you gonna sign him?
No. And do you know what? By all accounts, from what we heard of him under Ragnick, he was a bit of a shit disturber as well. Whatever we talk about in terms of him on the pitch, way too much baggage. Hell no.
And the trouble is, we need some sort of. We need a we need some. Obviously, with he should not be named the former captain leaving. You know, if Mr. Cresswell goes as well, you do need someone who's going to bring the dressing room together a little bit. And I don't think Maguire does it. He seems to get in fights with the team. He's been stripped of the Man United captaincy, and I think he's, you know, I don't think he's a not very nice person by all accounts. Mike, no.
Categorically no.
Okay, and I'm not going to sign him either. There we go.
That's a yes from David Moyes.
And that's a yes. So this is our first signing. I'm telling you now, this will be our first signing. Before we finish, because you know, because we're only going to do an hour, and we won't go for the others. We'll do it another day because I think it's quite fun actually. If I said to you, okay, let's assume. You know, and you know, probably go to tits up. Let's assume Carlos Borges is signing. We'll assume that one. Dan, who's the next one for the door for you? Who's the next one? One name.
See, I see a lot of people in the chat talking about Payet. No, ship sailed for me. But Daichi Kamada is someone that's available on a free.
Nice. Free, yeah.
You know,
clubs.
Yes.
The only thing that worries me with him is it fell through with AC Milan, and I think it's fallen through with Napoli or someone like that, or Palermo or something. Lazio. Yeah. So it's two sides. So something strange. Whether he's asking for too much wages, or it's just not working.
He wants a 5 million fee plus 5 million wages plus 3 million for the agent. Good work if you can get it. That's a free transfer. That's normal, right? That's normal.
Make an approach and negotiate.
Yeah.
You know, he's there. He's available for free. Say, look, this is what we're prepared to offer you. He goes, well, this is what I want. Well, let's meet in the middle. Maybe also the law of the Premier League, London, all of that stuff can also help give that extra. You know, he's available for free. So not approaching him is ridiculous.
It's a ready-made Lanzini replacement, 26 years old, and we know him. We've seen him play. He's a good player, right?
Yeah, good player. I mean, you know, also, I mean, because isn't Sal going? Because obviously Sal was available for something stupid from Frank. He's going to Lazio, isn't he? I think so.
Like 16 million, I think.
Something ridiculous like that. Yeah. Okay. So you're going to say Kamada. Gal, who's the next one for the door for you?
Next one out, Vlasic.
Next one in.
Next one in.
Yeah.
In.
Yes, we'll assume Borges is done. So we said Kamada.
Well,
who's the next one for you?
I think JWP is almost nailed on, isn't he?
Oh, is this a prediction or what we want? Was that what I don't know? It was a prediction or what we
okay.
But I think it's him.
All right. Okay. We'll say prediction then, and then the one you actually want. So
my prediction is James Ward-Prowse, because that looks close.
But you want Kamada.
Who I want is Kamada, yeah.
Okay. So Gal, you're going to say JWP in, but who would you really want him?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to pick the same as I'm not going to pick Kamada as well, same one as Dan, because I did have him on my list. I've been looking at him today. I do want him. I would have picked him if Dan didn't. Right. So I'm going to change it. I'll go for Alvarez. That's fine.
Mike?
Alvarez is fine.
Yeah, so I think coming in is going to be JWP, isn't it? It's written all over it.
I love the way we're so like, it's going to be JWP.
Yeah.
In terms of players, well, Mbappe's available at the moment, isn't he? So,
he just turned down Saudi apparently. So,
yeah, exactly. So he's free at the minute.
I've always dreamed of playing for West Ham.
If Spurs are linked with him, we might as well be. You know?
Yeah. I read that he used to sit on the North Bank as a child.
He did. He had a West Ham lampshade and everything.
The Conference League, and you never won one of these, mate. But no, I think for a player that I'd like to see for Fofana would be for me.
Yeah, I think for me, I think it's pretty nailed on. Is it JWP? But I would like to see, who would I like to see next? I would like to see. Okay, we said Alvarez, Fofana. Those are probably the two I'd pick. But let's go with someone like.
Fofana, I'll say someone else because there's someone else I'd love to have, which we haven't talked about in this. If you want to say Fofana, you go on.
All right, I'll say Fofana. Who'd you say then, Mike?
So for me, it'd be Alex Scott. He's an absolute no-brainer.
Yeah.
Good shout. Yeah.
He's the player that I would sign 25 million quid. You know within
Every
a
day of the
season,
week,
he's
yep.
going to be at least almost double that if he has a
Yeah.
decent season. So he's the.
Didn't we
he's the
already
guy.
drop the ball with that one?
Apparently so.
Apparently,
But then
however,
Wolves-
no one's bid for him, so technically
No,
we
yeah.
can't talk
And
to
Wolves-
him yet. So
Yeah, Wolves are the only ones sort of who are really interested in him, and
they
they've
have
got
to
and they're
survive.
basically up shit creek. If you, I don't know if you've seen the news today,
Yeah.
Lopetegui said did like an interview with what's his name, Guilherme Balaga, or his name is, the Sky La Liga, which is apparently
Ian Ballagay.
Ian.
yeah, Balaga, but apparently that was totally wasn't covered. The Wolves didn't allow it. It wasn't okay by Wolves. It was totally off his own back, basically saying we're up shit creek without a paddle, basically. And he's in his all these Wolves tracksuit, and yeah, the Wolves
Well, they can't afford Cresswell, right? They're
No,
straight.
They can't, no,
they've sold
exactly.
the left back to get to. I think they're using that with their 5 million. They've also now just selling Jimenez.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, they've got to sell those, so they can't afford Alex Scott if they can't even afford Cresswell, unless they have a surplus that they have for a player, and then there's a budget for the rest, which is just sell to buy.
Crazy.
But
He's nailed on to be a great player, though, Alex Scott.
Oh,
I
yeah,
agree
he's
with
great.
that. Nailed
Yeah.
on.
Great player, but he needs to be in the side where who I think I don't think he if you brought him in, I don't think he would flourish as much under the current regime, because I think sort of
He wouldn't get a game. He wouldn't get a game.
because he wouldn't get a game.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
He's not going to play it unless
No.
you know as a directors that within 6 months you're going to go and make a change regardless because it's going to be a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
Then there's no real point to doing it unless you can say to him, we're going to buy you and send you straight out on loan so you can continue playing. That's the only other way, but I don't see West Ham spending £25 million and loaning him. And that would most likely be the most logical and sensible thing for West Ham to do, to secure an exceptional talent, to keep him away from basically not playing, to then for the next season to come back with a clean slate, first team football in a top league. So I'm pretty sure Steindl can get him into a Bundesliga team to go and play at a really top level. But we don't buy to loan, unfortunately.
No, we don't.
No, exactly. Anyway, gents, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. Real giggle, and I think we'll no doubt we'll probably haven't signed anyone by the time we do another one in a week or so's time. So thank you very, very much. Obviously, you guys know. Obviously, you got Dan from West Ham Fan TV. Obviously, you know, he had the Friday Night Pint in a couple of days' time and all that stuff. But a really good video today, actually, about his views about why employ Steindl if you're just going to get McTominay and all these Premier League players. What's the point of having Steindl? Obviously, Gary from Claret and Booze. Some great shows. 2 Hammers. Keep an eye out for next week. 2 Hammers. It'll be probably Dan and Nick, which would be good. Looking forward to that one. Good shout.
Having a Moyes Moan Fest.
Yeah, it will be.
God,
every show with Nick's a Moyes Moan Fest.
Epic Moyes Moan Fest with Dan and Nick next week. Looking forward to that one. And obviously Mike from Babylon Irons. You know, loads of really good content, loads of stats and really stuff like that, which is slightly different from everything else. So it's really, really good. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for your time as per usual, and thanks everyone for watching as well. If you're new around here, give it a like, give it a comment, give it a share, and all that good stuff. And from myself, from Dan, from Gal, from Mike, we'll see you guys very, very soon. Take care.
Cheers.
Much love.
Bye, guys.
Bye, Izzy. Bye. Bye, Izzy.